Welcome everybody. Welcome to Happy Hour Gamedev. We are just wrapping up our 8-day anniversary special. You just watched the last of our 8 ATVs in 8 days. And if you count the regular ATV that was the day before, it was 9 ATVs in 9 days with 8 of our brand new ship shape segments. I don't know. I know you guys are working hard on 3.0, and we certainly appreciate it. On our side of the building, we're all going to sleep very, very well this weekend. Now that we're finally out of it. This is the end of our marathon here. Welcome to Happy Hour Game Dev. I'm your host, Community Content Manager for Global Video Production, Jared Huckaby. Today, we have what might be, we've done a lot of cool happy hours this year. You know, happy hour has been one of our new things for 2017, but today I'm excited. This is a thing we've wanted to do for so long. I'm so happy we get to end our 2017 with this. We are going to pick here, between us and with you guys watching at home, the next Drake ship to enter the ship pipeline. So joining me on our esteemed panel of Drake experts, you know, because most Drake ships are done here in the LA studio. Immediately to my right, why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Elwin Batchelor, and I'm the lead vehicle artist in LA.
And what Drake ships have you worked on?
Caterpillar is the main one. The team here has also done the Buccaneer. I think we've also worked with the ATX team in Austin to build the Cutlass and the Herald.
Okay. And to my left, we've got...
Hi, I'm technical designer Matt Sherman. I think I've worked on every Drake ship except for the Caterpillar at this point. So the design on the initial for the Dragonfly, the Buccaneer, Cutlass rework, setting up the Herald. So really enjoyed working on Drake ships.
Yeah. And certainly last but not least,
my name is Matt Intrieri. I'm the principal ship technical artist, and I've worked on all the Drake ships and all the ships in the game, really.
Now, as a technical artist, because most people know what a designer and ship artist. What does a technical artist do, so they know what your specialty is?
Yeah, in a traditional setup, the art would create the art, technical art would integrate that art, and then tech design would take those items and use them in gameplay. But we have some crossover with tech design on our team, so sometimes they integrate the art, and I'll have to come in and tweak some issues that might arise from materials to animation to rigging to to destruction, all those kinds of things. But I generally focus on landing gear now and destruction and any new features that we're trying to prove out, like ships inside ships and things like that.
All right, so we have a lot to cover today, so we are going to jump right into it. Maestro, if you'll put up our 3 choices. What's happening today, guys, is starting today, and it'll start at the end of today's show, and running through December 11th, you are going to have your chance to vote on 3 options to be Drake's next ship to enter our pipeline. Right off the bat, our first option is an entry-level salvage ship that the writers have already dubbed the Vulture, a multi-crew Drake competitor to the Constellation. You know, for a long time, RSI's had the Constellation market locked up. We've recently seen Origin step into the market with their 600i. Now we have the possibility that maybe Drake will step in. We'll be discussing what that is. And then third is viewer's choice. Now we're going to discuss these first 2 options for the next 20, 25 minutes, and then we are going to go into 3 more options that viewers of this show will get to vote on. So you will vote live during this show on what that third option is, and the 3 options will go into the entire community for a vote for the rest of the 11 days. So the vote is not open yet. There's no reason to spam chat. Right now we are going to discuss these options. We want you to hear all the options before you vote, because a lot of people are just going to see, oh, I want this, I want this. You know, there's a lot to be considered when deciding what the next ship is. So let's start off with the entry-level Drake salvage ship. Now I'm going to go ahead and read the little description here that design has given us. This is their little, most designs start with a single paragraph blurb. Just a high level treatment, like what do we think this ship might do? And then it goes to the team for fleshing out. The one-man blurb for the entry-level Drake starter ship, aka the Vulture, a one-man salvage starter ship. No drones, but plenty of onboard storage to help with EVA salvage operations, space for cutters, charges, etc., and space in a separate area to store and process the recovered salvage. mostly designed for the player to EVA out of the ship and do the salvage rather than sit inside it and do it with tractor beams lasers. It's small enough to sneak into hostile areas unnoticed and recover fresh salvage. Now, when I was talking about this with John Crew and Todd Pappy, we were thinking, yeah, I mean, this is the kind of thing that doesn't have to wait for the battle to be done. You know, in a large-scale ship environment, this is a thing that would sneak in there, you know, with updated scanners and find the most valuable piece of salvage and get it and get out, you know, while everybody else is still fighting. A lot of these things start with design, so I want to start with you, Matt. What are your first thoughts about an entry-level Drake salvage ship?
Aside from like just, yeah, we need something in that size for salvage.
We
so
do.
the biggest thing I would think with this is like different from the reclaimer is, you know, the reclaimer, it's going to scrap something down, it's going to process it into raw materials, where something like the Vulture, you know, just any carrying beast, it's going to want to go in and get the actual real good meaty bits first. So a better focus on, okay, let's recover, oh, are there intact guns, intact components, intact parts, cargo, things like that, and trying to get those out of the wreck first. So almost like Jaws of Life type stuff, where it's like, let's rip this open, find what's good, pull that out. And then if there's a little room left over, it's like, oh, okay, well, we had to mulch down this door to get in there. So that's into the salvage tanks for like the processed materials, but still more like, hey, let's get the good parts that we could take back somewhere else, clean up, sell, use, something along those lines.
Now, the only salvage ship that we have in the game right now, or in the pipeline anyway, is the RSI Orion.
No, I guess it's reclaimer.
Yeah. Big ships. I've done 8 ship shapes in 8 days. They're all a blur at the moment. So the reclaimer. The reclaimer is a big beast.
Yeah.
Obviously designed by George Hull, amazing concept artist, Blade Runner, stuff like that.
Not very stealthy.
No, not very stealthy at all. And everything's done internally. It's all tractor beams and lasers. One of the things that designers have already stated for this is that this is a ship that you would EVA for. This is a ship that you'd have to get out. What kind of things would we expect to? How would you tackle that ship if you know it's something that you got to be able to get into and out of?
That's sort of the first thing that you want to think about is because it's supposed to be able to get in quick and get out quick, you need to be able to access the cargo hold as quickly as possible. So I'm starting to think of real vehicles right now where you can just toss things in the back. Like pickup trucks allow you to just throw things in the back and just get the hell out of there. Obviously, we haven't done a concept for this, but I'd be curious about trying to do sort of a bike setup for it, something that you can just hop on and get out as fast as possible as well. So getting in and off would be pretty quick if you do something like that.
You're not talking about a bike and like the scale of a bike. You're talking
No,
about
I'm
a ship
talking
that
about
almost like you ride on top of?
something that you want to be able to get out of the cockpit as quickly as possible to get the goods and then throw it in the back and get out. So getting on like a bike seems like a cool way of being able to accomplish that, right? Because otherwise, if you look at our other ships that have cockpits, you got to wait until the canopy pops open, sort of EVA out, and then go do your thing. Whereas if it's just a bike, you just hop off and you're good to go.
Almost like a giant salvage barge that you're riding on top of.
You're sort of riding it.
I like that.
And it's not going to be a huge ship either, right? I mean, this is sort of a smaller
entry level.
Small
Yeah,
ship.
so it seems like a possible avenue to explore. I'd be curious to see something like that.
It definitely seems like something Drake would do. You can't imagine Origin making something that you would ride on top of, like Slim Pickens, you know, in Doctor
No,
Strange.
that's not exactly
But
the
Drake-
safest way.
Yeah, I kind
Drake,
of
they
get that Old
totally
West
would.
feel out of that, like a wagon
Yeah.
train kind of thing, like you're out there in the front, or somewhere where you're outside of the ship sitting.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting idea.
It'd be cool. Also, not the safest way to ride, but Drake is cool with that.
And there'd be no question about, ejection seats.
Yeah, because
Exactly, yeah.
safety
Jump off.
equipment is a design constraint. It's a limiting factor. When you don't have to care about operator safety, you can explore so many more options.
Gotcha. Now, of course, one of the things I want to add for the show is we are exploring ideas. None of these ships have been concepted. We are going to decide between now and December 11th which of these ships enters the pipeline, at which point it will be assigned to a concept artist, it will be assigned to a designer, and these decisions will be fleshed out. But if you don't think I'm not going to write that up and send it along, if this wins, we're definitely going to send these ideas along. But we are just exploring some ideas. Now, Matt, you've worked on just in some way, shape, or form between the VFX and every Drake ship so far.
Yes.
Well, what would you like to see as far as an entry-level salvage ship? How do you think we could set this ship apart, or what makes it Drake, and what what could we do to add to that?
Well, we've got the prospector, which has the drill arm. I guess I'd have to have some kind of ability to mine. What would be the Drake version of that? I don't know. What would you say art-wise? Like, what would that look like? Something more complex, like multiple lasers? Or is it? I don't know. Like, I don't usually get in on this side of the things. I usually like make it work, kind of. But
that's why I wanted you. Usually, you're the guy that has to make the stuff work at the end. I thought it'd be interesting to bring you in. You don't never get to be at the concept stage. So
not really.
So if you could do something, what would you? If you could point.
Well, okay. So if it's a stealth mining salvage vehicle, you'd want to get in, get out. You'd want to be able to like smack land, maybe attach, go grab stuff. Maybe I love I've suggested this before with other Drake ships is like a harpoon gun, pull it in. I love that. Yeah, the cutlasses having harpoons and tearing other ships apart. I'd love to do that. But the fact that we're talking about an exposed pilot seat, that's interesting because if you're going behind enemy lines, you're very unsafe.
Yeah.
So maybe you'd have to jettison the back because like the Millennium Falcon, as someone mentioned in chat. You jettison your cargo to get away. So if you have to speed off. You want to survive the encounter, so and maybe you're taking a big risk going in behind enemy lines to get cargo that might be worth a lot, but you don't want to lose your life and your ship over it. So some way to get in fast and get out of danger fast if need be.
That actually, that's kind of a cool idea, like being able to drop off your cargo, and we've got precedent in Drake to already do that kind of thing with the Caterpillar where the captain's like, well, screw the crew, I'm getting out of here, right?
Well, and my life is more important. But also, then you've got the Herald with the detachable data pods on the side.
Right. There's a precedent where Drake is
there for Drake.
Drake is willing to leave things behind in order to
survive.
To survive at some.
It's that or install an ejection seat. No.
So,
what is one thing that Drake could do for this ship that maybe no other manufacturer would do? I already like the idea of riding on the top. Is there some other feature, some other, something that we could add to it that makes it distinctly Drake?
I would almost think making like some of the salvaging and cutting tools something that you could actually use as a heavy weapon in an FPS type scale where, especially because we're inevitably going to have those Titan suits. I would imagine something where
if I've got life.
If I'm holding a giant like two-handed Jaws of Life type thing with a laser cutter down the middle for like prying open a wall and getting at a component, I want to be able to wrap that around the head of a guy in a Titan suit and crack the wall knives. So something like that where it's just, I'm going to grab this laser. I'm even thinking to the Spider-Man movie this year where it's like, when Michael Keaton grabs the one like laser gun, and he's like, oh, I thought this was a different gun. It's like, I want that kind of moment where it's like, all right, let's grab. Oh, that did way more damage than I expected. That's probably a humanitarian violation somewhere.
So while we've been talking, I started a vote for people. Just a fun vote. What should the salvage ship be called? The three choices I gave him was the Vulture, which is what the writing team have offered. One was a Carrion. So I was saying like something like the Carrion Spike or something that starts with Carrion. And the third one was Gib Salvage.
No.
I'm very pleased to announce that Vulture is running away with the vote right now between those three. So
it's very evocative.
So finally, before we move on to another ship, any more final words on Salvage? Who wants to make a case to the community for why they should choose an entry-level salvage ship?
Because not everyone's going to have the resources, either like in-game resources to acquire a reclaimer, or like the friends or NPCs or crewing resources to really leverage it, the full potential. Something to let you get in and start harvesting those parts. Or also if you want to be that sneaky bastard. If you want to be the sneaky guy where it's like someone's ship breaks down, you manage to swoop in, grab that awesome gun that's still intact, and it's like, I've got a nice size 5 cannon now. I'm going to do stupid things with this and probably get myself killed, but I got it for free. So.
Matt, why should people vote Salvage?
Well, I don't want to answer that question. What I want to do is I want to open this up to like, what is a Drake? What is the Drake motif? What defines Drake as a, and you know this best because you're building these. So let's go from there. Like, is it kind of this steampunk kind of look? Is it like more industrial?
It's more. I like to describe Drake as you're sort of existing inside of an active construction site, right? That's sort of the feel that I go for when I'm working on it, and that's literally that was the guiding principle of building the interior of the Caterpillar.
Totally.
Where you don't want to be able to feel comfortable or safe at any given point. Obviously, everything's functional, but there's this gigantic arm which is going to be moving and potentially crush me if I'm 1 inch closer to it. Mm-hmm. The walls they're all too low. You're going to bump your head on something. The edges are sharp. It's just not a comfortable place to be, and it's because they don't care about your comfort. Mm-hmm. They care about getting the job done. That's it. Yeah, it's not. It's
no fluff.
There's no fluff at all. It's like, this is what this thing needs to do, and we're going to allow you to do that, and that's all you're going to get.
Raw functionality.
And for design, what would you say is the key points of the Drake family of ships? Just
the two biggest things, sort of like what Ellen was saying, is that raw functionality where function, form can come at the very end of it, but it's like function first. But then even beyond that is interoperability inside the Drake family. I mean, it was something that we did with the Cutlass, making sure it can carry the Dragonfly. So making sure that if you're operating a handful of Drake ships together, that they feel better as a group, that they work great in concert with each other. So.
Yeah, like maybe there's a way that this thing can attach a Dragonfly to the side. Just to send out 2 guys. It's a single player. It's a single player ship by the spec. But maybe there's a way to attach a Dragonfly to the side, like a sidecar.
Can we form Voltron? Can we do Drake Voltron?
Exactly. All right, we do need to move on to the next ship. I want one more argument. Why should people vote for the Salvage ship?
Because stealth in a salvage ship is, I feel like, it's going to be a unique thing to be able to do in the game. There's no other ship that will be able to combine those 2 features. Also, it fits in perfectly with the Drake family. You just need one of these guys in there for the small fights to just go in and cut out what's important. It just makes perfect sense.
Now, I do want to add that there's nothing specifically in this mandate that says stealth. It's a much smaller. Stealth is implied by it being this big compared to a giant, massive Orion.
But it's also Drake.
It's also Drake. So maybe some signatures are going to be, maybe there's going to be a couple aftermarket mods. And of course, I think the easiest reason for people to vote for a Salvage ship is simply because the only other one in the pipeline right now is the Reclaimer. And that is definitely end game Salvage. You'll want some place to start. And, all right, so your option number 1, the Drake Salvage ship, aka the Vulture. Number 2, a Drake Connie competitor. Now, we don't have a name for this one yet, but I'm going to read the little brief here. Drake competitor to the constellation, the Rough and Ready Multi-Crew Explorer. It differs from the 600i by its crude basic construction and from the Constellation by its lower missile count. But it has a 3rd turret to make up for it, able to transport a vehicle and cargo, think extended, upscaled Cutlass rear area, faster and more nimble than the others, but like all Drake ships, it is what it is, kind of thing. Right. So, again, I'm going to start with design, similar to how the process starts. You've been handed this idea for a Drake constellation. Where do you begin?
So to me, the biggest thing that sort of jumps out on this is that 3rd turret. So one thing that I feel we don't really have with any of our ships, but would totally fit Drake, would be sort of a a broadsider type ship, something that it doesn't shoot forward, it shoots off to the side. And so if we had a spinal line of those 3 turrets that have that full 360 range around it, where it's like, all right, everyone shooting to the left, everyone shooting to the right, and really being able to focus fire to one side while the pilot is still just eyes forward doing their flight around.
So you're saying all 3 turrets would be on top or on bottom in order to change sides? Or would they all be on one side and the ship would have to turn around?
I would personally think they would all be on top. I mean, Drake has enough manned turret housings already on between like the Cutlass and the Caterpillar, so it would make sense to have them there. It could be 2 on top, 1 on the bottom, but the bigger thing being a clear 360-degree rotational range around the ship, so they have that full coverage area. But more so being able to know you can line up all 3 turrets facing the same direction at any given time, and then just unload on your target. I'd even think, because if it's saying reduced missile count, I would almost think it's like instead of any missiles, give the thing maybe 2 torpedoes at most. Like make it a very pared down ordnance, but let those turret guns do the heavy lifting for it. Because even the Constellation, it's got 2 turrets, but it's also got those big size 4s on the engines. What if instead of having any of those big size 4s, it's just all 3 of those turrets are really a potent threat. But then, hey, if you catch this thing on that wrong side and the turrets are having to respond, you create enough panic moments where it's like the pilot's going to now have to react and maybe roll the ship, flip it around to the other side, create some interesting maneuvering scenarios to overcome, to really leverage all that firepower.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually really love that idea. Just because when you first met, like what I was thinking about was exactly what you said, having everything on one side, all the firepower on one side. It just creates this high risk, high reward gameplay on this one ship. And I don't think all of our other ships that have turrets tend to be a little bit more balanced in terms of like they can sort of hit a lot of different firing arcs. Yeah. But it'd be very cool to have something that can hit really hard from one angle, but has a very obvious weak point. Yeah.
Using the Caterpillar that we have here, just as an example. I mean, I sometimes think about what if you replace these cargo modules with broadside cannon modules, big giant cannon emplacements. You open all the doors, and then it could fire out that way, and then in a typical sailing vessel you'd have to come back around to the other. But with the Caterpillar, it could just roll over. It could just roll and fire guns out the other side for a second broadside, which would be, for my money, and nobody asked me, would be amazing. Yeah.
Now that's very cool, and we spoke about that with the Caterpillar quite a lot. This new ship, though, would be more maneuverable. And so you'd be able to get the same effect, essentially, of unloading that much firepower, but a much more nimble vessel.
Yeah. So would you put the turrets on top like he's suggesting, or would you put them all on a side and then have them have to maneuver? Because if you put them on top, you can't get to anything below you.
Yeah. Well, but you have to keep in mind
we could still pull that off because part of this other description was having a vehicle in it, and I would think it's like I'd want to be able to set this down and still have all 3 of those turrets being like, say you've landed and you're dropping off a Cyclone onto the ground. You want to make sure those turrets can give you a great coverage, so wherever that Cyclone's popping out of the ship, it's able to go and it has covering fire from its parent ship the whole way through.
Gotcha.
So.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I almost have to be on the sides. So
I would still say almost like along the top spine, because if we're using that Caterpillar as sort of our facsimile mock-up, then that panel that's open on it, imagine a Cyclone bursting out of that where it's got 3 turrets, 2 are pointing one way covering the Cyclone, 1's covering their 6, making sure no one's coming up from behind them or no one's coming down from the sky at them.
Okay. Next question is, it mentions a vehicle. Now the Connie comes with a vehicle, comes with an Archimedes. If you get the Aquila, it comes with the Archimedes and an Ursa rover. Yeah. And if you get the Phoenix, it comes with
the Phoenix comes with the Archimedes. The others come with the Merlin.
Okay. With the Merlin.
So, but basically, some versions come with a ground vehicle and a ship. The Origin comes with the Explorer. It comes with the rover that we haven't, the 600 that we haven't really talked about yet. What kind of vehicle would this come with? If you could, again, this is not committing to a thing. We are exploring ideas here.
And this is an exploration vessel, like
It does say it's
Rough
de
and ready
facto a rough
explorer.
and ready multi-crew explorer.
Yeah.
But this is made by Drake. So, so it's one of those things where it's like, there's the
Exploration.
purpose of the ship, and then there's the purpose of the ship. So, Matt, if you could put any kind of vehicle inside it, would it be a ground vehicle? Would it be a snub fighter? What would it be?
So we'd have to choose sort of between wheeled or flywheel.
Doesn't necessarily have to be wheeled. It could still be hover. Ground versus.
It's something new. I would just like to look at all of our vehicles. We've got 2 bikes now. We've got 2, if you count the buggy, we've got two wheeled vehicles and then a third coming with the Cyclone. And so something in between. Maybe, when we're still working on our GravLev features, and it's a little slidey right now, but we're going to tighten that up and give you some turning. So maybe something with the GravLev tech, but with a bigger vehicle would be kind of cool, just as a new thing.
Like a Cyclone that uses GravLev kind of?
Could be, just to throw that out as a new variation on tech that exists. So we won't be building new tech for it, we just sort of slap existing tech that we've already done the labor on.
Okay. Yeah. But something terrestrial.
Could be, yeah. The GravLev stuff, especially the bikes, can go out in space too. So.
Fair enough. Because you're using GravLev, there's nothing that says it can't be used. I'm picturing. I don't know why, but I'm picturing the thing that the droogs run around in Clockwork Orange. Something open canopy. Like an open canopy car with a bunch of people.
Right.
It could be like a Star Trek kind of boarding ship. Like, I'm going down to the planet. I'll just take my little shuttle down. That kind of thing.
And what would you do?
I mean, if my dream would be to just put a vulture in it, because it makes perfect sense to have a vulture with the ship.
Yeah, really.
That breaks the vote, Elwin.
I know, that breaks the vote. But that would be my dream. And probably we wouldn't be able to get the vulture to fit into this ship.
Yeah.
But if we could, and if that was a thing.
Okay, if the vulture wasn't an option because it's a completely different voting option in this contest.
It would have to be something that could haul some cargo, in my mind, because you're gonna generate quite a bit of debris when you come in with this ship, and you want to be able to haul something out. So I feel like if you're exploring with Drake as your main company that you're doing this with, you're not just going out to get some info. You're going out to get some loot. Yeah. So whatever we do with it, I think would have to have some usable cargo space. Probably be able to carry some weapons. Probably have multiple people on it, something like that. I actually think it'd be cool to have it be a wheeled vehicle. I like the idea of the GravLev stuff, but I like something a little bit more rugged for Drake.
Okay. And Matt?
Yeah, that is a bit fancy for Drake, right?
It feels like, even though they have a ship that already
yeah.
has it, but this ship has a different purpose.
Yeah.
So I feel like it makes sense to have this one be a little bit more nimble.
I definitely agree sort of with Elwin, where to me the thing that sort of stood out in my mind immediately would sort of be one of those like half-track snow crawlers that you see, where it's like not a full connected tread base, maybe like 2 tread sets. But you've got this little compartment cab up front for 1 or 2 people, and then you've just got a flatbed. And so, are you loading cargo on that flatbed? Cool. Do you want to just set up, if we can't forget, a deployable turret where you can just put one down or put a gun on like a tripod thing? Okay, put a couple of those on. Now you've got a little battle platform, almost like that Toyota truck that gets used in like every sci-fi movie, the indestructible truck from the Terminator, where it's like, you can drop it off a building, blow it up, it's gonna run.
A pickup.
Yeah.
Pickup truck. If
Yeah,
anybody was gonna make
that's
one.
what this would kind of have to be.
Yeah.
I know. The second you said tread, my mind instantly went to Sergeant Slaughter's Triple T from G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
Okay, everything that has a toy based on it.
Now I'm going to put you all on the spot here. Obviously, we're just playing around. I want 3 potential names for this ship, one from each of you. Again, it's just for fun. It's our code name. We'll call it internally from this point in. It's got to be on the spot.
Well, it's got to be a animal name, right? Because they're dragonfly and caterpillar.
There's a buccaneer.
Well, there's a
buccaneer
buccaneer.
and a cutlass is a sword.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're tied anything.
Could be.
But I need them now. I need them quick.
Let's see what chat says here.
Yeah, see, like these are the things some of us are going to like, oh, crap,
I know.
Lord,
First thing that comes to your mind. First thing that comes to your mind.
The
Drake
Corsair.
Monarch.
The
Monarch?
Galleon. I like the Galleon. Corsair.
Galleon's a good one.
Nomad.
Corsair's good.
These are good.
Okay, so Monarch, what's your vote, Incheri? Quick.
I kind of like the Corsair. Yeah,
Corsair.
that's an interesting.
Wait, do we have? Are you looking at a list of names?
I'm looking at chat.
He's cheating.
I'm cheating.
I'm like, wait, what
Cheating
is?
by looking at chat.
I don't know. The first thing I think about when I think of this is not exploration.
Yeah?
It sounds like a weapon to me. Like the whole thing is a big weapon. So it's either hammer or cudgel or something.
Hammer? You want to go
Something.
with hammer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do hammer. Hammer, I think works.
All right, so we're put that up for folks, guys. You can vote in Twitch chat right now. Enter a 1 for Monarch, a 2 for Corsair, a 3 for Hammer. All right, while they're voting, I want to wrap this up. Again, I just want a little summation from each of you. Why should they vote for the Drake Monarch?
Almost to have something again different, because we'll have the Constellation, we have the 600i, so to have something in that like 2 to 3 person kind of multi-cruise ship that can fill a different gameplay style, where now instead of being super exploration heavy like the 600s may be, or having that luxury bend like the Constellations have with the Phoenix, something that is much more just the rugged bare bones approach. I don't care about the vanity aspect. I want function, 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 and I also want a half track.
Ellen, why should people vote for the Drake Hammer?
If you like the Caterpillar, but you wish it was more nimble, had more weapons, and could help you crush your enemies faster, this would be the ship to get in the Drake family. There is no other ship in the Drake family that will bear this much firepower. Well, I mean, in terms of
nothing we're talking about here is we're committing to.
Right.
We're exploring ideas that we will pass on. But.
Yeah, that's why. That's why I would get it.
All right. And finally.
And I think multi-cruise ships are like the sweet spot for a Star Citizen, where you can get a group of friends together and just crew out the ship real easily. It's not gigantic with multiple floors, and you know it's hard to find your friend on board. It's not hard to repair because it's accessible from inside. We're going to be putting a lot of systemic damage in the internal components and over this next 6 months, and everything's going to componentize and giving health. So we're going to want access. You're going to be able to, escape the ship if it's about to explode. All those good things. So there's a lot of gameplay that's going to be stuffed into these mid-sized ships. And not to say anything bad about the larger ships. It's just it's hard to run from one end of the javelin to the other. Yeah. So you don't want that.
For my money. There's the common Quentin Tarantino joke. You can be a fan of Elvis, you can be a fan of the Beatles, but you can't like them equally. You got to like one more than the other. For me, it's always goes back to that Philip K. Dick. You can like the usable future of Blade Runner, and you can like the pristine, future of Minority Report. But you can't like them equally. You have to favor one. For me, it's always Drake. It's always Drake. It's always that usable future. I like when things look used. I like when things look lived in. I like when the 5 things I know I need are there in the room with me right now, and not tucked away neatly in a stylish cupboard, on some other part of the ship where it looked best. So I'm a fan. My first ship when I supported the project was a Constellation. So the idea of a Drake version of this just screams to me. I'm like, yes, that's the thing that I didn't know I was looking for, since I started here. So if you want to make disco happy, vote Drake. Vote Drake. If you like the new ship shape, you don't want me to take it away.
Wow. Wow.
Threats now.
The Drake Constellation.
This is kind of ugly.
Okay. So let's see who won our name. Oh, that was a runaway, the Corsair.
Yeah.
Yep.
a good name.
The Drake Corsair. So when
I don't take credit.
when we pass on our findings to the team, should it win, we will pass on that the voters voted for Corsair as a name. Again, it's up to many factors, but we will add your voice to the voices of everybody else in development. All right, finally, viewer's choice. Now, we are already at 12:40, so this is a bit of a lightning round here. We're still going to talk about these, but maybe not as in depth. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But we are going to give you 3 more choices. 3 more choices that you will vote on today, right now, in the show to be the third option that we then send to the entire community for the next week. So these 3 choices were bandied about by design and lore and whatnot. And the 3 choices that we have presented to you today, I'm going to put these up and then we are going to start the vote. Before we do, I want you to know the vote's going to go for like the next 20 minutes while we talk. You don't have to vote right away. You're going to see some things on there. You're going to be like, oh, I want to do that. I want to do that. Wait.
Don't impulse buy.
Yes, I would recommend you maybe wait a little bit. You hear about what folks are saying about it, but it's up to you. We're leaving it up to you. You can vote right away or you can vote, but we got like 20 more minutes of the show, so you've got some time. Maestro, let's go ahead and put up our new three choices here. Yep. We have the 3 choices for today's viewer's choice are a scout carrier, and we'll talk about that a bit, a star lifter, and a medium storage runner, which doesn't sound like compared to the other 2, it sounds like the least sexy of options. But we're gonna explore that because I've actually heard some stuff about. We've talked a little bit about it, and I think there's some hidden value in that storage. So hold on, I'm typing in the options here. Star lifter. I think I probably misspelled star lifter, but you know what I'm talking about. Medium storage
Do you
runner.
even lift, bro?
Do I even lift, bro? All right, so we are starting the poll, so that is now open for you guys. Okay, so scout carrier, right off the bat. Ready? Drake's capital ship entry. Space to park and store a few medium or large ships, like maybe up to a Freelancer Max, and transport them around the verse. It serves as a mobile truck stop and function with a small hub of stores, some less than legit, to help restock. The second option, a star lifter, capable of transporting ground vehicles from space to ground and back, but not much else. Unable to fully land with the underslung vehicles, think a Russian transport helicopter that would like pick up tanks, and capable of holding a couple of our largest vehicles, or even a higher quantity of the smaller ones like an Ursa or a Cyclone. So maybe a little hint that there's some larger ground vehicles on their way. And the third option, a medium storage runner, the herald of cargo running. Big engines for fast point-to-point travel with a moderate amount of storage to offset the speed. Somewhere between an Avenger and a Cutlass in SCU capacity, great for getting goods from A to B fast. And we talked about this with Todd. He was like, you can transfer data with this, you can transport people with this, you can transport cargo. It's basically one of your fastest cargo transport options. Now, I want people to wait. Let's start with the medium storage runner because I know everybody's going to jump on the scout carrier, and let's start with the medium storage runner. Matt, how would you tackle this?
The high level concept, almost like the Pony Express style ship, where it's probably, I mean, just because the Cutlass gets mentioned in capacity, so we're looking at something between like Cutlass and Freelancer in size. So not a really tiny ship, but still big enough to get the job done. Couple of seats, so not a giant multi-crew type ship, but something you could run it with one person, you could run it with 2 or 3 people. But then just like the Herald, giant honking engine on the back to just propel you out there. Again, probably another thing where it's that straight line fast kind of notion where do you want to outrun anybody even with a full cargo load? Do you want to just go fast? Yeah, you can do it with this ship. Do you want to be maneuverable and nimble? You probably won't be doing that with this thing because it's going A to B fast, not A to B stylishly while drifting. So.
Okay. Elwin, how would you tackle a medium storage runner? What do you think a medium storage runner looks like?
Well, because of how fast it needs to go, obviously the biggest feature on this thing, just like the Herald, as you mentioned, is probably going to be its gigantic engine. It probably won't be having too many weapons. I feel like it'll probably be very similar to just an oversized rocket, essentially, would be the shape of it. With an accessible cargo hold, just go straight forward.
Okay. Symmetrical or asymmetrical?
Probably symmetrical. Yeah, probably symmetrical. Making it asymmetrical changes your center of balance. You wouldn't want to do that. Not on this ship. Yeah, you want to keep it as balanced as possible. So yeah, that's how I do it.
Yeah, I'd be interested to find out what our plans are for interdiction. Because if you stop somebody in quantum, like should we have anti-interdiction tech? So this would be able to kind of get through a level 1 interdiction attempt, and there's like levels of interdiction or something like that.
That's a good point. Something like this would almost certainly consider, maybe the components would be, extra shielded for EMP stuff like that, things that would pull you out of quantum.
I would just imagine the whole interior is like a giant Faraday cage where it's like, unless you're at the pilot seat with a comm panel, you're not calling out to anybody else from that ship because you don't want anyone else looking in at the same time.
Because one of the things that design called out with this when I was talking to them was that it would be capable of transporting data, cargo, or people. So, so I don't know if does that mean modular? Does that mean something we swap out in the center between seats in the area versus empty, cargo plates versus, computer storage racks? Is there something that swaps out, kind of like the Cyclone?
Depends on what you mean by people. Like the Cutlass has a blue and a red, which is like a
yeah, if someone's in a cell or in a
cell or
pod
on a medical
something.
table, we're going to have full swaps of the interior to fit those functionalities. So that could be a thing. But if it's just seats, then we can maybe have fold-up seats, on the sides, and then put your cargo there and fold them down when you're no cargo, that kind of thing.
The data, I think that could even be something where it's just a built-in part of it, because every ship has computer systems to it, so it's just a matter of, okay, this has this extra server rack to it, but then to make it different from the Herald, it's like, no, it doesn't have the comm array, it doesn't have the external data pods to launch things out, it's more based on that internalized storage, so then you may pull a blade out of a rack from the inside and then walk that up to your contact for if you're moving data from point A to point B, or something along those lines, versus just having racks and racks that you're adding or subtracting from the ship.
I would think, as a balance thing, because you obviously have to. We talked about seat speed. You don't want a ship that can do data, cargo, and people all at the same time. I feel like there should be some kind of trade-off. So like you mentioned seats that fold up. Obviously, those would fold into the cargo area. So you have your choice between people or seats. But I feel like there should also be like the data thing should be a thing that takes up space. So that you can't just load up a ton of data, load up a ton of cargo. So.
Well, if you approach it like that, the Herald has these data modules that are supposed to plug in. So if you wanted to have a lot of those and have it be something that you specialize in for that run, then you'd have some kind of unit inside that takes all these plugs.
This is a medium ship, so it would be like a one step up from the Herald if you were trying to use it for data. So it makes sense that there would be a larger, CPU kind of thing that would take up
like
where the cargo was.
Data rack thing.
So that you have your choice. Are you transporting cargo, are you transporting people, or are you transporting data on this particular run?
Or it could even just be part of that data transport can just be, hey, here are these now detached data pods from a Herald that are just sitting and occupying your cargo hold, where you may not be able to go to a computer station in the ship and access the data inside, but it's powered up, it's still there, it's functional, viable data that you can sell off, trade off, deliver to whoever needs it.
Okay. Moving on to the Star Lifter. That is capable of transporting vehicles, ground vehicles. This is the Russian attack helicopter, like the Mil-60.
Or it's the CH-54. I looked up the actual models before this.
Yeah, if you want to see what we're talking about, just Google Russian.
Vehicle transport helicopter was the best quick search I was able to do for getting some good.
Gotcha. A thing that would come down, pick up a tank, move it to another part of a planet or a moon, drop it down. Only this says it could even do several of them. So we're talking about a thing with like multiple cranes, at the bottom to grab these things.
My spider senses are tingling. This is like got all sorts of red flags on a technical level.
Talk to us about that. What are the red flags?
I just like, if you're talking about you can pick up a ship of any size or functionality, then you have to have some kind of arms that can actually conform to those, and it has to be, just think of the different design shapes that we have in
What if
this
it's
game.
tractors, like tractor beams? What if it's
If it's something more virtual, that would work out better because, tractor beams would be great. But if you want to physically, which Drake is more, they do have tractor beams on the Caterpillar, we're going to get that. So I guess.
And the Cutlass, so it would definitely fit for that.
Okay, that solves that problem then. Because I was just worried if we're going to start grabbing things and trying to physically lift it, but if it's a force.
Yeah,
then,
I picture when I picture something like 4 fold out, arms go at the bottom. Each one's got a tractor beam generator, and you need all 4 of them for a super large thing. Or you can use them for 4 individual cyclones kind of thing. Because that fits with the thing to be able to transport a couple of the smaller ones, but maybe only 1 or 2 of the larger ground vehicles. Larger ground vehicles, what?
Yeah, but something great for it's like, you've just set up an outpost and you want to start doing some more ground exploration around it. Drop one of those things right by.
Oh,
you can
there's another
go out a
concept.
bunch of ships.
Could it be used to move an outpost?
Yeah, that's interesting.
That would be something worth exploring.
Depending on how
sure.
big the outpost is.
Yeah.
If it's individual modules, maybe you used your claim, you had your module delivered. How would your modules get delivered if you don't have a Pioneer or whatever? Something like this could be what you use to pick up the module from wherever the construction yard is on Hurston.
You could steal someone's house.
Yeah.
Just go pick it up.
Well, okay. Now, if we did that, then I would want to recreate the one highway fight scene from Lethal Weapon 4 where they're fighting through the mobile home on the truck on the freeway. So it would have to be able
Lethal
to
Weapon 4, the best of all Lethal Weapons.
That would be so insane.
I'm not
How
too old
crazy
for
would
this.
that
Bring
be?
it through the drive-through. That's what they do.
No, and then of course, if you've got your land parcel, whatever, and your service outpost is here, and after a month you go, I really don't want it. I didn't put it where I wanted to. The Starlifter kind of thing would come and pick
Or we've
it up.
tapped out all the resources at this site. Let's move to a different location.
No, a lot of utility in something like the Starlifter. I hadn't considered. There's nothing about the moving service outposts on here, and designers probably going to yell at me when I say, but I think if it can move, if
it's a giant crane, it's a giant crane.
Yeah, it's a giant crane. So it should, especially if it's tractors, you should be able to.
Yeah. That makes it a lot easier.
Anything else about the Starlifter? Thinking? Well, obviously, the Starlifter can't look like a Russian attack helicopter or lift helicopter. So what would this?
No, it depends on how big of cargo it can actually lift. That's going to determine how it looks. Because I'm imagining
several vehicles like the Cyclone, so it's already going to be. This thing says a higher quantity of smaller ones like the Ursa or Cyclone. So it's going to have to be something that can carry multiple Ursas
At the same time.
Yeah.
So it's going to be,
So
it's gonna be pretty sizable.
It'd almost be like have multiple sets of tractor beams that like these things are floating between.
Yeah.
So you could kind of drop one at a time.
Well, visually, I would actually like it to not be sort of a straight line thing. Yeah. So if I'm looking at it from the front, I'd like it to have some width to it, right? I want to be able to sort of see the other ships hanging or dangling beneath it. I think that's kind of an interesting look to it, especially if sort of it's coming in and it's like hovering over all this other cargo.
As far as shape language, maybe the exact opposite of a caterpillar. Instead of long,
right,
it's
sort
wide.
of like a wider thing. Yeah, I would, and that'd be really cool if it comes in and sort of just drops all the rovers or whatnot and keeps going. That would look really awesome.
I'm almost thinking like a rib cage type thing, where then the individual ribs are those like veined arms that have the tractor beam attachments on it. It doesn't really, seal up the entire outside, so a lot of what you'd be hauling would still be that exposed to space, but something big enough where then it's wider, but it could also maybe fold out a little bit to let that deployment go down, but to also let the vehicles or whatever you're carrying be a little bit more secure in transit.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't seal it from space. Like whatever it's carrying is completely exposed in my mind, at least from one side. I'm thinking obviously from the top it'd have to be covered up because that's where the tractor beams are mounted. But
And is this a potential cargo carrier as well, just like the crates?
I don't see why if you can pick up an Ursa, you should be able to pick up a store-all box.
It'd be interesting if you could marry it somehow with the Caterpillar, like those doors are open and you can sort of like grab.
Maybe we could pick up
having it
And then it's
sideways,
kind of like,
Yeah.
having it be sort of like a horizontal ship that's wider makes perfect sense if you want to match it with the Caterpillar, because you could have it fly in sideways,
yeah.
drop
And
everything
load
off,
stuff
and just
in.
keep going.
then it kind of just, it's like an auto load thing.
Yeah.
It just kind of like pulls all this stuff out and then you kind of, it'd be interesting.
Yeah.
We've been talking about tractor beams just because I know it would give Matt and Sherry a heart attack. I think we should explore grappling cables and stuff.
I got vetoed on that, but you know, we'll see if that happens in the future.
If someone can make rope physics not a burden,
It's
grappling
networking
hooks.
rope physics. That's
I
what
have a quick question though. With tractor beams, do we imagine that we'll be able to sort of shoot a tractor beam into an open Caterpillar and yank the cargo out?
Ooh,
I
so
think-
some of that
I
still
think-
has some.
I think there's like a
variance to it.
field that you'll be able to like
Yeah.
pull and push and then
Yeah.
kind of like.
'Cause
and then
it's
arc.
going to be a lot of affected forces at once, so that way, you know, if you're trying to pull a person who's got their EVA suit out, it's like, oh, you may start moving them, but then they've got local propulsion, so they could counteract that force.
Right. But let's say it's just a cargo.
Just cargo, I mean, potentially, but that's still one of those things where we can't really lock it in until we've got those more.
The reason why I say
built
that is
out.
because this ship, the Starlifter, sounds like it could totally be just a vacuum. Just a vacuum cleaner, just go
Yeah.
to an outpost, all your stuff is now mine.
Using it offensively.
That's what I'm, like you,
Oh, yeah.
I can go
yeah.
in there and just start vacuuming value out of whatever space I'm in.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of potential for something like this. It would definitely be something where it would need to get that vote in
You're always thinking about how
to
that
give it the
breaks
time
up.
to develop.
I've been building too many, I've been spending too much time with
Can be
Drake.
abused. yeah. There's the intention, and then there's the abuse.
Yeah.
Love you. All right. So we are fast running out of time. Last but certainly not least, we all knew this just based on the name that it was going to run away with the vote. That's why we left it to the end here. Scout carrier.
Yeah.
Drake's capital ship entry, space to park and store a few medium-large ships and transport them around the verse. Now, we talked a little bit about this before the show. The scout carrier it's capital ship, but it's not going to be. It wouldn't be an Idris. It wouldn't.
Yeah.
There's no way the UEE would let Drake make a military, capital ship. So what would set this apart?
The ability to, I would almost say, in the same amount of size as something like an Idris or a Javelin, a much higher carrying count of ships. But the trade-off of next to no weapons, because you're hauling, say, 6 to 8 ships of various sizes on board. Those ships are your defenses. You don't get a railgun or a massive missile array or a bunch of extra turrets to be that defense for you. You get those 6 to 8 ships you're carrying and hauling around with you.
This is basically like Drake's trench coat with a lot of pockets. This is your pocket carrier. This is the end all be all.
I don't know. Even from this description, the one thing that I immediately jump to in my head is it's the truck stop from Spaceballs, especially with the chance to have the singing, dancing aliens that burst out of a patron's chest. I'd love to see that happen with it, but it's more a utility first capital size ship where it's built for moving vehicles. It's not built for fighting vehicles.
All right, so you say utility and truck stop. Is this going to be a giant floating parking lot? Is it a parking lot that flies through space?
I think essentially that is what this will be. I would approach it in terms of it being sort of like, this is my space station essentially, right? Because it's got enough space in it to perform like a space station. You're gonna have people coming in, selling, buying, and whatnot. But I also imagine this like Han Solo's ship in The Force Awakens, the one that
The big
overtakes-
carrier thing that he had. Yeah.
So to me, that's sort of like the feel that I would go for a ship like that. I also
Yeah.
really love the visual of the Millennium Falcon being swallowed up, by this other ship. So I would make the opening pretty big on
So
this
maybe it has one internal opening in the front like that,
Right.
but then landing pads along the
Yeah.
the top and the sides. So it's what people, when everybody saw the whole scene for the first time, people started imagining, oh, what if we put ships in the crates? Sure. This is basically it's a ship. It's got the interior for the maw, like you just described, for a big one, and then a bunch of landing pads on top, for buccaneers and for smaller ships. And this is just to get your little fleet from A to B.
Right. Yeah. It would be really cool for gameplay as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need it. We need more carriers. We need like these big things to go up against with your little fighters, and it's just going to add a lot more gameplay, I think, to the universe.
I don't know why I'm in this G.I. Joe mode, but I'm remembering this oil rig platform place that the G.I. Joe had that had these landing pads on the side, and I'm just imagining that flying through space right now. But it's truck stop. The giant maw.
It's like the Marvel helicarrier, right? That's
kind of.
That's still
I actually think that's a little
more
too
active
exposed.
offensive
Actually,
also.
for whatever reason, I just like the idea of it swallowing other ships.
Yeah.
So I like having like a giant cavernous opening or giant hangar on the inside with a handful of smaller landing pads around it. So you wouldn't really be able to land a bigger ship. You'd have to go inside of it for the bigger ships.
Like I'd even want to see something where it has almost a decent sized repair bay for one of those cavities where it's like, hey, you could just, if you're servicing your ship, well, hey, why not repair it? And you fly that in.
Carrier. It's a giant maintenance carrier.
Yeah. It would definitely be just, it could support any of the Drake ships to a certain extent. Like I could imagine it at biggest, you sit a single Caterpillar, like if it had a giant, flat carrier deck, you could land one Caterpillar on it. Maybe not fly with that Caterpillar there, but still enough where it's like, cool, I can land down, I can unload my cargo, I can reload any fuel, I can update any supplies, do any patchwork I need to do. The Caterpillar could take off from that deck, but it still would have a bunch of other ships inside of it.
Yeah, I think whatever that landing deck is needs to have almost direct access to whatever is going to be done with that cargo, right? Because if I'm using this with my fleet, I want it to be the place where you come back, drop your shit off, and then leave, right? Just come in, drop it off, leave, and then we start processing whatever that is.
Which is where there's sort of like side landing pad, almost, I would picture like a handful of different lifts on the sides as well. So that way it's like you've unloaded your cargo onto these lifts just outside the Caterpillar. And so they're going to lower down, and you're going to start tucking that cargo away into a storage hold or something. And then those pads can come back up, and now a pair of Buccaneers set down on them, they could lower down, or anything along those lines.
It's like a moving Cryastro service station.
It'd be hard
Not as big, obviously.
It'd be hard to render like a fully open warehouse style with like 5 ships and piles of cargo from the outside. Like if you're looking in, you'd want to like somehow put culling. Put walls between so you're not drawing all that all the time. So there's some concern there.
There would be similarities.
Consideration.
There'd be similarities to the Idris in that sense. Where the Idris basically has one giant opening, but it can be sealed off.
And you can put 2 ships along that runway.
What if it's something with like pads that I'm trying to think of how to make that swallowing ships. The one in the front like normal, but then there's like the doors on the sides that open, and a panel comes out, and a ship lands on it, and then it pulls it inside. Yeah, and it goes out, and a ship lands on it, and it pulls it inside.
Because it can be compartmentalized that way. Where
flips, or we could do all sorts of cool like ways of land on it, and then it
this big thing
tucks it in.
And then when it's time to deploy, doors on the sides open, and then all these pads come out on the ships, and they take off.
Yeah.
So you approach it like landing pad style, as opposed to carrier landing.
Or the maw, the opening is some place that you land in, and then it takes you in.
Tongue out.
It's like it just eats you.
Oh, that actually would be funny. Where it's like a big tongue. Where it's like you sit down.
There's tongues that basically stick out. Yeah. You land on it, and then it pulls you in. So there's no carrier-based landing. Like there'd be a way to separate it from from a Bengal or an Idris.
And that would allow you to airlock the interior, because we have atmosphere and people will be walking around inside. Then you can pull them in through an airlock and do like the Panama Canal style like locks thing.
All right. Well, I think we pretty much have our winner for the third option. I won't say it was a foregone conclusion, but I am pleased to say that the Starlifter put up a fantastic showing. Starlifter got almost 30% of the vote. So good job, Starlifter. But yes, the third option will be a scout carrier. So as we've done for the entry-level Drake salvage ship, and we've done for the Constellation or the Corsair, why should people vote for the Scout Carrier as opposed to those two? Let's go ahead and start with Matt this time.
Well, it's a flying city, and it's just going to have so many possible uses, and customization options, I'm sure. So I just think that'd be a lot of fun, and a place that people would come for commerce, and yeah. So I think has a great place in the universe too.
Okay. And Elwin, why should people vote for the Scout Carrier?
It's your HQ, basically.
Drake HQ?
Yeah, that's your Drake HQ. You will run all of your operations from this ship if you're not close enough to whatever outpost you are running the rest of your operation in. That's why I would get it. It seems like the perfect centerpiece for your entire fleet.
Yeah. I mean, like those guys said, it would be just that ability to pick up and go with not just one size of ship. It's like, all right, I've got enough options, so wherever we end up, we've got the tools on board to tackle whatever challenge we want to face.
You quantum to a planet and just unload all those ships, and they do theirs. Some are protecting, some are mining, some are it's just a lot of gameplay there. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right. And one final vote before we let you go. What should the Drake Scout Carrier be called? JJ, we can go ahead and take down the viewer's choice text since that voting is done. What should the Drake Scout Carrier be called?
Chrysalis.
I'm going to represent the community again and put in the Kraken.
That's
Chrysalis?
a great name.
Kraken.
That seems good.
I misspelled Chrysalis, but you guys know what I'm talking about. And you?
Or Drake. Man of
You
War.
already got him. Give him one.
I kind of like Man of War.
No.
You want Man of War
pick
instead of
one.
Kraken? I can change it still.
I say if it switches, the other one's
Although
disqualified.
I think Man of War is going to be more armed to the teeth. I don't think Man of War
That's true.
applies to
That's
this.
true.
I think
Yeah, because I mean, this really wouldn't be a
come up with anything better
combat
than
craft
Kraken.
at all.
Can't come
I
up with
gotta
anything
be
better than
not that
Kraken.
feels good to me.
We'll just call it the Elwin.
The Draken.
It's a terrible
The
name.
Drake
All right.
Draken.
So one last vote before we let you go today. What should the Drake Scout Carrier be called? Your choices are the Chrysalis, but it will obviously be spelled correctly, the Kraken, or the Elwin. All right. So some last housekeeping measures before we let you go.
Tortuga.
Everybody, thank you for joining us. This is the last of our 8-day anniversary special. I sincerely hope you enjoyed it. Everybody who had to sit in for interviews, Matt Sherman, we brought Elwin in a couple times. Thank you so much for making these things possible. Obviously, we covered in the span of 8 days with our new ship shape, we covered something like 17 ships. I have to count them out. The map, for the graphics with the ships and everything, started to get crazy and started to slog my computer down. We covered a whole lot of ships this week. Obviously, there were ships that we couldn't quite get to. I know there was a lot of people saying, "Where are my freelancer variants?" A lot of people saying, "Where are the Endeavor?" And when we have information to share about those ships, we will have ship shapes for them. The simple answer is if a ship wasn't covered, it's probably not in active development yet. So there just wasn't anything for us to share with you at this time. Obviously, we have so many ships coming to Star Citizen, we cannot work on every single ship at the same time. So there is a flight queue in this. So some ships are still waiting for their time to get in, and that's the easiest answer for why we didn't cover your favorite ship this week. There are a handful of exceptions. Some might be being saved for another thing, like a holiday live stream or whatnot. So, but for the most part, if they weren't covered, it's because their time hasn't come yet. With that, regular programming for Star Citizen stuff will return next week. We'll have Citizens of the Stars back and Bug Smashers and Lore Makers and all that good stuff. If you haven't checked it out, our November monthly report went up live last night. Check that out. Because we've been in burn down phase since 3.0. Since we've been approaching the release of 3.0, we haven't had the monthly studio report. So your monthly report is your best chance to see what all the different studios have been working on for the last month. And I think we can go ahead and close this up. Running away, Elwin putting up Elwin putting up a better showing than Chrysalis.
The USS Ellen.
Matt Sherman, hang your head in shame. You got
0 for 3 on names or whatever.
The winner is the Kraken. So we will pass that on. We will pass that on to development. For those of you wondering when you can vote on these 3 ships, the Salvage ship, the multi-crew Corsair, or the Scout Carrier Kraken, that vote will go up later today. Basically, we're going to wrap this up. I'm going to go into the other room. I'm going to type it up. We couldn't have it done because we didn't know which ones you were going to pick. Once I create that, that'll go up as a comm link on the RSI website, and that will be open and available to everybody from later today to December 11th. So we'll be collecting your votes there. So with that, thank you so much, Elwin. Thank you so much, Matt Sherman. Thank you so much, Matt Venturi. I hope you guys enjoyed it.
You did.
That
That's fun.
And thank you for tuning in, guys. We'll see you next time.
And thank you for supporting
Happy Hour.
the project.
Absolutely.